First of all, I would recommend them kind of just sit back and think about what kind of art they want to create. What kind of story do they want to tell? What legacy do they want to leave behind with their artwork?
I don't know, that's the advice I give younger artists, is just know your own mind and be true to that, and then be okay with the choices you make as a result of trying to make that, keep that as a priority.
I guess my advice would be to not feel like you have to have it all figured out. Just always think ahead to what's one step ahead that I can do, what makes the most sense at this moment.
And if you stick to something and you find it interesting, the will to improve is just about putting in time and effort. It has nothing to do with God-given talent, which doesn't exist. It has all to do with you, the individual. Art is just like everything else. It's man-made idea of expression.
Welcome to the Boldbrush Show, where we believe that fortune favors the bold. Brush. My name is Laura Engelbert, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. For today's episode, we compiled the best motivating advice from past episodes for artists who are struggling with artist block or need a little bit of inspiration. Starting out in the path of the artist can be challenging. You might be asking yourself things like, what should I paint? Where should I begin? What's important? Hopefully, this episode can shed some light on some of those questions and help set you on the path of self-discovery and self-fulfillment within your artistic practice. Like I mentioned on the previous compilation episode, these aren't the only tips we've discussed on the show, but they're some of the most inspiring ones so far. All of the artists mentioned in the episode are linked in the show notes, as well as their respective episodes, so you may go listen to them if you'd like. And now, let's listen to the top 10 motivational tips for artists. We're starting off with some amazing tips from Shayna Levinson about how to overcome artist block.
First of all, I would recommend them kind of just sit back and think about what kind of art they want to create. What kind of story do they want to tell? What legacy do they want to leave behind with their artwork? And from there, they can kind of pinpoint what direction they want to go, whether they're painting still lifes and they like beautiful objects, whatever makes, honestly, what we do is kind of a selfish thing. Being an artist, we sit and we paint. And some people paint things that make them feel good. Some people paint things to make for social justice. And so it just depends on what statement you want to make within your work. And from there, just writing down ideas and coming up with kind of a series and a thought process of how you can continue that story within each piece. So yeah, just writing things down and maybe sketching, just like doodles, even if they're gnarly, they don't have to be good sketches, just maybe to kind of play around with composition or whatever the case may be. And then photograph reference as much as possible, just so you can kind of have things to look at and play with those ideas in your head, because I work a lot from photo reference, especially because I'm painting myself a lot. Or if I'm painting Mylar balloons, I will photograph those and then play with that in Photoshop. But yeah, so just making sure you're like constantly figuring out what story you want to tell and writing those ideas down.
Here's what Diego Glazer recommends when it comes to motivation.
Painting is both my work and my escape, so I'm kind of trapped. I don't have much of a choice. Motivation isn't even a factor. It's just what I do, Like I get up, I go to the easel, and that's it. There's no thinking, there's no nothing. It's just the natural order of things, But I suppose there is the thing that keeps me going the most is the excitement that every day there's palpable improvement. There'll be a couple of days where I kind of suck, but for the most part, there's going to be palpable improvement every single session that I paint. And if it goes well at the end of the session, I'm going to be very, very satisfied, and I'm going to go to bed and sleep like a baby. So that's kind of what keeps me going. It's like, what am I going to paint next? Like, yes, today I get to paint the face. Awesome. Tomorrow I get to paint the tree or whatever, It's all very exciting.
It is. Yeah. I like that perspective because it's very much like fresh eyes, almost like childlike wonder, the excitement of something new and exploring it and getting to know it intimately,
Exactly. That's what it's all
Yeah.
about for me.
I can tell. Because I mean, sometimes, I don't know about you, sometimes when I go to the easel and I'm in like a really boring part of a painting, oh boy, it takes a while for me to want to actually complete it. Kind of like when you do the background or like, or things just don't feel like they're moving forward in a piece. It just can be so can be a bummer.
Yeah, been there too. You know what helps me in those situations is like if there's a podcast or an interview or something like that that I really want to watch and it seems like a juicy thing to listen to, I'll save it for the boring part of the painting. So that way I'll be a little bit bored while I'm painting, but my mind is going to be entertained.
Ryan S. Brown tells us about the importance of finding your why and keeping your priorities straight.
And as long as you did it sincerely and purposefully, I mean, you can't predict everything. So you just, like I tell students, you have to very early on try to really set your priorities and understand what it is that you absolutely need to do. Some people maybe they don't have a whole lot of experience, and so they say, I want to be as good as I can be. Okay, well, that's a priority. You might have to then dedicate 3 to 5 years in the academy. If your life doesn't suit that, then you have to figure out how to finesse your life so that it will. If that's your absolute goal, if that is your priority, then everything else has to sort of subordinate to that. And you figure it out. And then, when you're a professional, it's the same thing. If you're motivated by, like, my motivation, I don't even know how to describe it. I'll try, but at the risk of sounding pretentious, my motivation is I want to feel like the work I'm creating fits in with the tradition that I admire most. That if I'm doing the paintings, if whatever paintings I make, if they hung next to my heroes, that it would feel equally as purposeful, and it would feel like it fit. I want to be a brick in the lengthy tradition of this bridge from generation to generation. I don't want to be a bystander to it. I want to feel like I'm a part of it. And so when I go through the museums, what I'm really looking at, I feel like, is very purposeful decision making on the canvas, very purposeful decision making when it comes to subject matter, what they were painting. Obviously, the craft is at the highest level, but it's why they painted the pictures they painted. And the message that offers viewers. That's what I hope to achieve. So what that means is that that priority changes how I spend my day. I can't turn into like a content creator. Although, like, I do a podcast and like I'm trying to film a TV series, but that's just because I love talking to artists. That's part of, like, my greatest joy of being an artist is talking to other artists and seeing their studios and hanging out with them and getting to know them. So that's a pure motivation for me. But you know making a bunch of TikTok content or Instagram stuff, or like, it has a level of importance because we have to show our work. We want to show our work, but it's lower. It's much, much lower on my priority list than being in front of the easel. So, when you set your priorities and why you're doing something, you're doing it on purpose, then, maybe if you don't get as much attention or your sales aren't as great as other artists, you did it on purpose. It was your choice, right? You chose to put more time here than in marketing or whatever. So I think if you do that, you can at least feel comforted that whatever comes is on purpose. You made that choice. That's, I don't know, that's the advice I give younger artists, is just know your own mind and be true to that, and then be okay with the choices you make as a result of trying to keep that as a priority.
Kyle Ma reminds us to focus on the present and to find your next step.
I also think it's important to be practical, because I think the challenge that I find for most people who are trying to when they get out of school and then do art full time is finding the time to get really good at painting and while supporting yourself. And I had a pretty early start. I started learning drawing and painting seriously when I was 10. So I while I had middle school and then high school, college to take care of, what I didn't have to worry about was figuring out how to pay the bills. So I think also when you're early on in your artistic development, if you try and monetize it too early, I think it can really hurt your development as a painter. So, I'm not against this idea of finding some kind of other job until you're able to support yourself with painting as well, as long as you're smart about managing your time. So if let's say I were working a full-time job right now, and then trying to also establish my art career, then I really have to be mindful of how much time I'm able to spend on any part of my life. So probably evenings and weekends, then I have to figure out a healthy balance between getting the work done and then working on my art career while also spending time with family and friends, and then also getting adequate rest. So I guess my advice would be to not feel like you have to have it all figured out. Just always think ahead to what's one step ahead that I can do, what makes the most sense at this moment, and gradually what you'll begin to see after you take this next step, and then you'll see the next step and the next step forward, and eventually you're more likely to start transitioning into making a living as a full-time artist, rather than just thinking, okay, now I'm out of high school, or now I'm out of college, I better figure everything out right now.
Eric, our music, reassures us that it's important to have faith in yourself, that you can pull through no matter the obstacle.
We all have habits that can bring negative things in our lives. We can do a certain thing every day, or even just the negative approach to life. If we just engage every day with our life, telling us a story about how, oh, I can't make it, I didn't come from an artistic family, I didn't go to a great school, I don't have any money. Basically all those things are describing my life. I mean, that's where I came from. Didn't come from an artist family, didn't go to an great art school, got rejected from an art school that probably would have got me maybe a little farther. And it's funny, I've gotten 2 students into that school since then that have studied with me, so it's kind of funny to get a little bit of payback. But all of those things, like all those negative things in my life, could have created that person that said, I'm incapable of doing it. And really, so many people are engaged in that first and foremost, is that you have to change your belief system to believe it's at least possible. Like not know that how it's going to happen or where it's going to happen, but from that early part to just say, okay, I'm willing to believe I can do it. And from there you'll take steps, but you'll take steps in a different energy. You'll want to take daily habitual kind of moves to advance it further. So maybe it's you start another social media account and you start doing posts once a day. Maybe it's you start trying to build up your newsletter list. a couple people a day. You inquire with some people that have been talking with you on social media, and you want to bring them on to turn them from acquaintances to maybe potential collectors someday. It made successful. If I sit around, I mean, at 30 years into this business, I could sit around and still wait for someone to acknowledge me. I have plenty, even organizations within the realism world, that they haven't crowned me with anything that's given me some wow. I'm so successful now because of you. I made myself successful. I waited for many years for galleries to pick me up. I was rejected by every single one of them, and multiple times. And a lot of them said, I like your work, but it's just not our thing. And I sat and waited and waited and waited. At some point, you really need to just take that responsibility. You need to believe that, and in this world, there's many opportunities through the internet. Social media came around 10, 15 years ago. That was another opportunity. And if you're smart, you'll look at where trends are going and try to catch the next train, because there'll be more and more opportunities going in the future as well. For me, I would say about 7 years ago, I started reading a lot about how important video was. And I determined, I said to myself, I'm not comfortable in front of the camera. I don't really care for any of that kind of stuff. But I need to do it. And I needed to get comfortable after a while and start to be, whether it was learning to talk with people, learning to speak with customers, whatever it was, all those things I didn't want to do, I was telling myself, I'm not a salesman, I'm not a marketer and all that stuff. That got me nowhere. They got me unsuccessful. But if you're willing to at least start entertaining the idea that you can achieve success in this, you can find your own way. You just need to take daily steps. It's all about action. It's about belief first, actions, and then at least not trying to beat yourself down when things don't happen overnight. It's like growing a plant. You plant the seeds, you can't harvest the next day. These are all about small things that built what I have today. And whether it was printing out business cards to hand to people, to get people to know who I was, to go and start another social media account here and there and build that up. It's been a progression throughout that time. It's just daily steps every single day. I nurture this my business as it's my fourth child. It has to be nurtured every day. You have to think in terms of the day, how many posts you're going to do and how are you going to share yourself. If you're just a studio with all this billionaire come and knock on my door and say, I want to buy all your art, it's not going to happen. Even at my stage, everybody's Eric Car Music who, you need to get your work out there in front of people. And it's about a progression to that, take it in chunks and little by little. And it's that repetition, just like Coca-Cola did to get where they are today. And through that, you find your tribe, you find your brand, you learn who you are. I mean, I wrote artist statements when I was a kid, and they were ridiculous. They were just trying to use big words that say nothing, But throughout 10 years of failure or 20 years, you start to find out who you are. I could write an artist statement quite easily. I know who I am today. I'm happy with who I am. I've succeeded based on that belief and holding true to what I was. And maybe at one time it wasn't successful, but I made it successful. So I think that's the biggest thing is building all of that, and to understand that failure is part of success. I've said it again. It's all part of it. You don't succeed unless you fail. Look at anybody that's ever done anything. And I can't remember the exact quote, but nothing achieved is really great without that sacrifice. If you got everything easy, handed to you like a trust fund kind of thing, would you appreciate it? I wouldn't. And I appreciate every little bit of it. Every painting sale, I'm able to share that with my family and do great things for them and have the life that I love. That's worth fighting for every single day, and that's why I do it. I love getting up on Monday and staying up late. I love this, and anybody can do it too. I'm not some special case. It's how it is, I think.
At Boldbrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world because creating art creates magic, and the world is currently in desperate need of magic. Boldbrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BOLDBRUSH show.com. The Boldbrush Show is sponsored by Faso. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal, considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e-commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day-by-day, step-by-step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's FASO.com/podcast. Jason Pollins reminds us that talent doesn't matter as much as staying consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I keep telling people there's that whole belief, oh, I wasn't born with an artistic talent. It's like, no one is.
Yeah.
There's no, from my perspective, there's no such thing as talent. The only thing talent is, from my perspective, is the impulse to engage in a particular thing. And we definitely all have these impulses to do certain things. Not everything, but certain things. And if you stick to something and you find it interesting, the will to improve is just about putting in time and effort. It has nothing to do with God-given talent, which doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. It has all to do with you, the individual. Art is just like everything else. It's man-made idea of expression.
Yes,
that's it. That's
yeah.
it. So
consistency will always beat out talent.
Right. I have way more consistency in doing what I'm doing than I have talent. And that's the only reason why I do this. That's it. It's very fulfilling also, as for me as an individual.
Hillary Scott tells us about the value of working just outside your comfort zone and to do it no matter how afraid you are.
So I was a little afraid of it because, again, the inspiration was so stunning to me that I was afraid a little bit of failing, which is another problem. You know, we can't be completely afraid of that. It's a little scary, but you have to accept a little bit of failure. So yeah, I just sit down and do it. I'm like, I feel like sometimes we get so in our heads about things. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. And it's just like, just do it scared. So that's kind of what I have done sometimes. Like right now, I'm like trying to figure out how to convey this aerial scene and like how to set up a composition, how to set up an aerial view, which I just plein air painted a few weeks ago. And it's just become deceptively difficult. So I just do it. And I have all these studies here and, they're not quite working, but I'm going to get them to work. So, but it's just, you have to do things afraid a little bit. And if you get stuck in your comfort zone, you're really not going to go very far. This has never been solely about making money, because if it was, I would just sit here and I would just paint various sunsets all day long. I've become good at them where I know it's kind of the low hanging fruit. So it's like, I know that if I paint this type of sunset over a marsh with the reflections and the shimmer, I'm like, it's probably going to sell. And that's great. I mean, I still like to do them. If I hated to do them, I don't know how I could do them anymore, but I still love them. But I feel like they're bringing me to the next level as an artist? Not exactly. It's kind of the same composition, the same flat, no vertical. And I just wanted to be able to push myself to do some other things, to work some other subjects in there, to keep things exciting, to just, mix it up and just not become like a one-trick pony, I guess. Like I want to be able to do other things and be, I do stay within a certain little rotation of subjects, snow, fog, what else? I do the wetlands a lot of trees. I have some other, I just don't want to do salt marshes all the time. I do farms sometimes. So yeah, I think I have a pretty cohesive style where I'm not all over the place, but I just didn't want to be the sunset lady where I was like, all she paints is marsh sunsets. And so at times I've had to, the galleries don't have a lot of work because in the middle of me painting them, and they do very well at selling those, I need to explore some other subjects. I need to experiment, and that takes time. And sometimes there's a struggle. And when there's a struggle, it's not going to be quick. So that's kind of where I'm trying to balance that, where it's like I need to keep the work flowing. I need to move the work to make money, but at the same time, this is kind of a career for me where it's not just about making a quick buck. I have to get better. And then eventually that will come back, and it's an investment. You know what I mean? So like if I can get good at some other subjects and get better at what I do, then of course that will pay back in sales later. But for me, it's me and my journey and trying to kind of paint the things that I just am passionate about.
Mike Adams tells us the advice he would give his younger self when he was just starting out.
I guess I would just maybe not be so hard on myself. I have always been pretty hard on myself, which I think kicked my own butt to always produce better work. But sometimes, it's a little too much of not feeling ready for what you want to accomplish when you're already there. So I think that I think just going for it with having the right amount of confidence is the key.
I like that. Yeah. Yeah. I share in that, a lot of us, we feel afraid. Like, no, I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. And then when we actually do it, we're like, oh, I'm like over prepared.
Yeah. You're like, that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And I
Yeah.
think that, if your best friends and your family are telling you whatever you do is great, okay, that's one thing. But when your colleagues and your, people that you don't really know are letting you know that, then there might be something to that,
Yeah, definitely.
Then it's not biased, So trust that.
Yeah. Mathieu Nozière reminds us about the dangers of pressuring yourself when you're trying to create.
If you believe in yourself, go for it. Like the best example is Nogi-san. I told you, like my wife, she was into engineering school, and she felt like she wants to be an artist. She was always drawing, but she had no support from her family. Some people were telling her like, you shouldn't do that. But she tried. She worked in a convention, her first convention, selling her art. It worked really well, and she felt like, okay, there's a possibility that it works. So she dropped everything and started her artistic career, and it actually worked very, very well. So sometimes we walk, after work, and we're discussing, like, imagine if you wouldn't have made this decision back then, So if you feel really convinced that you can do it, there's no reason to fail. So just go for it. If you feel a little unsure, there's no hurry. You can still wait and jump when you're sure. So I wouldn't pressure too much on this question. Just do things when you're sure and jump, because there's no reason to fail. And if you feel like waiting, just wait a little bit, because so many people pressure themselves also, like, I have to jump now or I will never be able to do it. And they put they put so much pressure onto themselves that in the end they're stuck. They just don't move. Right. So yeah, take it easy, and when you feel ready, just go for it and it will work.
Beautiful.
That's what I can advise. And it works in any fields, right? So I felt ready. I went to talk to this lady. It worked. Nogi-san felt ready. She jumped. It worked. Everyone who's a professional artist, it's most of the time the same. At some point, they feel like, okay, let's go. And they just go, and it works. So
yeah, it's about answering the call, It's like having that interior voice and like actually listening to it, like now.
Like, and once again, if you're unsure, take your time. There's no rush for being professional artist. I was listening to this guy, Francois Cheng. a Chinese man who arrived in France when he was a kid, and who actually learned French so well that he became a writer and one of the most acclaimed French writer from nowadays. And he said that he published his first book at 50 years old. And he became so respected that he entered the French Academy. So he said there's no hurry, just do things when you're ready, and that's it. So best advice would be no pressure. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. I love that so much because, especially, when you grow up in the United States, and actually in any culture that's, motivated by the big three careers, right? So like lawyer, doctor, engineer, right? Any culture that forces you into any of those careers, it's going to be really hard to not have that pressure, right? It's going to be really hard to convince everyone else that like it's okay to slow down. It's okay to take your time. And I'm actually relearning that because I went back to back to back to all of these academic schools, and it destroyed me because you feel so much pressure to like do things how they teach you and to impress other people, and it becomes like much more important than the actual work, right? It becomes like it's almost like I for a while forgot why I was even there in the first place anymore. It was like I don't know. But thanks to that awesome piece of advice you gave, which is slow down, it's okay, I've actually rediscovered it. So I can say that, as a testament of yes, I've done it and it does work. It's okay. It's okay to slow down. There's no pressure. Maybe, get a day job if you need money, obviously, but there's no pressure.
Yeah, we should remember also that our brain doesn't function well under stress. When you're stressed, your brain is just, you're not going to make the right decision and the right thinking and everything. So you need to make decisions when you're relaxed, when you're feeling comfortable, feeling good.
Finally, Andrew Tischler asks us to think about how to reframe our lives so we can better manage our time, to make room for creating our work, and also the value of having a parachute of savings so you can focus on your work without economic pressure.
What I would recommend doing, honestly, if people are just wanting to go into it full time, is first start by just doing it as much as possible while you're working. If you have to cut back on some of those work hours to open up a bit more time, so be it. That's fine. Wake up earlier. Maybe if you have to go to bed, if you're a night person, go to bed later instead of turning on the TV and zoning out. If you're tired, great. I hear you. You're tired. Do it anyway. You've got another gear to hit and another level. You're capable of so much more than you realize. And so, and I don't want to be insensitive to people's situations. Maybe people have I've got a really good friend who's got chronic fatigue. Okay. Try and tell him that. But so I get it. I get that people have challenges, but it's based on where you're at. Can you honestly say you're giving everything that you've got? And I had a friend a few years ago. He was a builder. He would start building at 7 a.m., but he wanted to paint for 2 hours a day. So here he's waking up at 3:30 so he can be in the studio and work from 5 to 7. And then he gets his lunchbox and he goes to the site. This guy's painting. He's getting in, 10 hours a week painting, which is not a bad little chunk of time. So he's able to build up some work, sell a few paintings on the side, and then he was able to go, I've actually got something here. And it's when I heard that, I was like, I could wake up earlier. I could fit some more time in. I could do that. So that's one thing that I would really recommend is that keep both going, cover your bases. The other thing that you're going to want to have plugged in is you're going to want to have a target monthly income. What does that dollar amount, just talking brass tacks here, what does that dollar amount look like? What is your mortgage repayment? What is your rent? What's your food? What are your bills? What amount are you going to have for a little bit of entertainment? Because maybe you want to go out on a Friday night and have pizza, okay? Maybe you want to have a beer or have a coffee or whatever. We got to live our life, okay? So what does that look like for you? Come up with a target monthly amount. Are you making that with your job currently? Cool. You probably are. So if you are, great. That is what you're going to have to make with your art. And then what I would do if it was me personally, if I had to go back and do it again, I would go full tilt towards that, achieve that target monthly income and exceed it past what I was working for my job. And then I'd say to the boss, see ya.
Yeah.
See you later. I'm an artist now. And I would also have something behind me. And again, I was talking to a friend about this years and years ago. You've got to have some savings. If you're not saving some money, and it's difficult for people to save, I get that. But if you're not saving money, try and just start saving 5%, 10%. Just start putting some money in an account and then grow that account so you've got 6 months worth of expenses. That is not there for you to spend. That's your parachute. So have that month, those 6 months of money just sitting there. What would that do to you psychologically? Right? Now suddenly you can create, not from the point where I need this, external. You've got that time cushion there so you can go, I've got some space right now, I can just breathe. And then in that moment you can just go, all right, I can just breathe, I can just chill in this space. What would I really love to paint right now?
Yeah.
I say, I've got 6 months in the bank. Could I give myself a week to do this picture? And if it doesn't work, so what? It's a week. Think about things in these terms. Be smart about this. Budget, save. Come up with a routine as well. That routine saves me. Now, I work on my routine constantly. It changes all the time. But one thing I'd been doing in recent months is I wake up at 3 a.m. And so when I wake up at 3, I then spend the first part of the day and I devote that time to God. And so I spend time in the Word. I pray. That sets my day right. That gets my mindset set right. I start the day off with gratitude. If maybe you're not of faith like me, that's fine. But like even just starting with gratitude, what are you really thankful for? Get yourself in a really great mindset. And then the next thing that I do, that's when Tish arrives. I'm in that great mindset. Tish arrives. I start just hosing down everything on my task list that is work, like the work. I don't like doing voiceovers. Guess what? I do voiceovers first. That's what I get. I get it out the way. Just do it. And so having routines like this, then after I've done a few hours of work, because I'm up well before the sun comes up, then when the sun comes up, I'm looking at that road going, is it light enough where I can see where I'm putting one foot in front of another? I'm going for a run and then I'm hitting the gym. And so then I get that workout time. Generally after that, then I spend about an hour with my son, and that gives his mom time to go and do a workout herself, go and have a shower, get cleaned up, do whatever she has to do for her self-care. But I get this great time with my son, playing with toys, or we go out for a walk or whatever. And then I come back. That's generally when I have my morning meetings. So that's just my routine. And then after my meetings and a bit more of that stuff, then I've got my creative time for the rest of the day. Then I'm in bed nice and early. The other thing as well is that, I tried to work out where was my money going, just back to the money thing. Where was my money going that was on frivolous expenses that I didn't need? Could I get rid of stuff? So that freed up money to be able to put towards things that were really important, to invest in camera gear, to invest in a subscription to a particular platform or whatever. To hire people, So for me, when I invest in my business, I hire another team member. I hire somebody else that's going to help me go to the next level. Work out if you can. You can use technology to do this. Wouldn't recommend AI, but you can use some outsourcing, some assistance or whatever to delegate tasks to open up that time as well. So I try to think about, where am I spending my time? Where am I spending my money? I also had to work out, okay, where is my time actually going? I've got this routine and all that. Maybe I didn't hit everything on my list. Where's my time actually going? Start a time journal. Write down when you wake up, what did you do? And write down a diary. Confession time. It's owning up time. Where did you spend this day? Now look at that. Does that hurt? It should. When you look at where you spent your day, then think, okay, I spent 4 hours watching television. I know what happened in Law and Order, but I could have taken that 4 hours and actually done something towards my art career. Now, if we're honest with ourselves, where did we actually spend that time? There's so much time that gets wasted. Me too. I end up wasting time on various things. I found out that I had in my transitions between tasks from moving from my drawing table to downstairs to my studio to take the cameras from this studio to another space in the house to another studio. I'm blessed. I have 2 studios. But to do that, it was taking me half an hour of setup time every single day. I was thinking, what does that add up to after a week? I got 3.5 hours in a week. Well, I don't work Sundays, so 3 hours, right? So what does that do? Well, I could be drawing for that time. What kind of work could I produce? I moved all my painting stuff upstairs. So now it's all in the one room. Transition time, done. I go from task to task immediately. So as you're doing this, as you're becoming aware of where you're spending your time, where you're spending your money, this is all stuff to do now while you're working full time. And this will help you become that professional artist that you're meant to be. And what does it take? What are the best of the best professional artists? How are they? You know, I think we build up this vision. I certainly did. Build up this vision of this leisurely lifestyle. It's like I paint when I'm in the mood. I paint when I'm here, when I'm feeling it, when the stars are aligned and my inner child shows up. And I have a latte and I do this, and then I go and see Deborah and we hang out at the cafe or the bar. And then if I feel like painting, then I'll, you know, we're not consciously directing it. Life is just happening. We're circumstantial. We're not intentional. So one thing I realized is that I had to be laser focused, intentional. Tish, are you being circumstantial? Are you the victim of circumstances now? Or are you just letting life happen to you? Or are you intentional about things right now? And so it's being intentional. That's my intent. So that would be my recommendation to anybody wanting to do this. Work out that thing. We talked about authenticity, so we don't need to cover that again. But work out that thing that you really love. Maybe can I just mention one thing about that?
Go for it.
The world has got plenty of people that there's so many people out there that are willing to cater to an audience. Let them go and do that. Don't let that be you. Do that thing that you love. Oh, but what if nobody loves my paintings of water lilies? Water lilies. I'm afraid. I really love to do them, and it's what I really want to do. But what if nobody really likes them? Who cares? Do it anyway. What happens is when you're authentically you, your authentic audience shows up. Do you think people that love abstract, I could go and get a market right now painting abstract. I could paint up a store and paint some beautiful abstract paintings and get that market of people that loved abstract painting. But guess what? It's not authentic. I'm doing it for them. Who cares? Do the people that love abstract love what Tish is doing? No, they don't. They don't like my stuff. Fine. It's not for you. What I'm doing is for the people that want to consume what I'm producing. And so let them have what they love. If you do what you are authentically inspired to do, your best work, when you're heart-centered, when you're focused on that thing that you've got in you and that's got to get out, the people that will love it will show up. Build your business on that. Then couple with that, the discipline, the routine. Now, a lot of people would be thinking, well, I'm just not that structured. I'm not that disciplined. Do you think I am? I might look that way, but I'm disciplined and I'm structured because I am a mess. I am a flake. I am all over the map. I lack structure. I lack discipline. So I had to force it into my life and go, no. We need to level up. The best of the best are this. You've got to find that. And guess what? The more I started to do it, the more it started to show up. And now people, when they hear that I'm not disciplined or, hey, I'm lazy, right? They're like, you? No. Yeah. And so as these tendencies, or even lack of discipline, like, because right now, like I'm all in on my diet, the exercise, back in the gym, lifting the weights, early mornings. You know, there are times where I want to eat the thing that I shouldn't be. And it's just like, shut up, bitch. What are you doing? Pick it up again. What are you doing? You know, and it's like, oh, that's right. Yeah, Tish is here. Let's go. Where are we going? What's the mission? Mm-hmm. You know, so again, I have to play these games with myself, with these identities, and just help me stay on track. But I really recommend people if they want to go into that transition into full-time art, it's going to take a gear that you haven't even reached yet. But you can absolutely do it. I'm not here to say it's hard. Well, it is, but you can absolutely do it. How do we know that you can do it? Because success leaves clues. There are so many people out there. I'm talking to dozens of people out there. There are hundreds, thousands, potentially over 1 million different people out there that are doing this. And they are killing it, crushing it, living their dreams. Right. What are they doing? Figure it out and apply it. So I heard a quote recently that I'd love to share with you.
Yeah.
And it is, if you do what's easy, your life will be hard. But if you do what's hard, your life will be easy.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm magnetized. I'm a magnet for that hard stuff. I want to know, where's the hard stuff? I'm getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Because I want people to look at me from the outside. Part of this, part of what fuels me, and I chuckle about this, but I love it. I want people to look at what I'm doing and go, how are you doing this? You're a freak. How are you getting all this stuff done? It's a structure. It's the discipline. The more you do it, the better it gets. Don't get me wrong. I'm still a human being.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I crash and burn sometimes, but then I learn a lesson from it. So
yeah.
I hope that helps to anybody wanting to make that leap. You can absolutely do it. One more thing. Can I mention one more thing?
Yeah.
We have right now at our fingertips so many different platforms, so many different avenues that we can reach people. Now, you might be thinking, well, the market's saturated. No one's going to buy my art. No one's going to find me or whatever. Rubbish. They will. You also have to be willing to play the game. A lot of people will make a post on Instagram, make a post on Facebook, put up a YouTube video, and they'll put up this piece of content, which they think is great. And they'll be like, why aren't I viral yet? Why hasn't this got 1,000 likes yet? I see Mark Majori got 5,000 likes on his post. How come I didn't get that? How much time did you put in? And the other thing as well is recognize that the people that are doing it really well, and I'm not saying this is me, like with Instagram and other social media and even YouTube, I'm not saying this is me, but recognize that every single platform is an ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
And it has a particular set of parameters or rules that work within that ecosystem. What you do on Facebook is not going to work for TikTok or Instagram. What you do on YouTube is not going to work for Facebook. You've got to learn each of these things as a professional artist and work out how to best reach those people on that platform. And then be prepared to put out content to crickets. Guess how many subscribers I had when I first started my YouTube channel? None. Zero. Zilch. Nada. No one was there.
Mm-hmm.
Good. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
But then as you start to do this thing and as you put in years, as you show up, now granted, I haven't been the most consistent, but just because I haven't uploaded a YouTube video in a few weeks doesn't mean that I stopped working. People don't know what we're about to drop on them. And we're building up backlogs of videos. We're working on really huge projects. I'll upload a video when I'm ready. It doesn't mean I stop. But how did we get from 0 subscribers to over 500,000? Now, granted, Stan Prokopenko has got me whipped, and a lot of other people on YouTube. There are amazing artists out there that are just running phenomenal businesses that have got so many subscribers. So I'm not getting it twisted about that being the most there is. But for me, I never would have thought that I would ever reach that level on YouTube. But what did it take? It took showing up consistently, as consistent as I could, for years. So I had somebody tell me this ages ago, and he asked me, it was a Dr. John D. Martini. And he said, what do you want, Andrew? What do you want out of life? What are you doing? I said, I want to be a master. And he said, very good. Are you willing to pay the price? I said, what do you mean? He said, are you willing to pay the price of mastery? Because he said, every master I've talked to has paid a hefty price to get to where they got. And I had to think about that. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm willing to pay that price. Whatever it costs.
We here at Boldbrush want to give a huge thank you to all of our fantastic guests and for the wonderful advice that they have shared with us. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, it would help us a lot if you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also remember to follow our Instagram at Boldbrush and subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we have begun posting the video episodes of the podcast. If you want to see the video episodes before everyone else and also get the best marketing advice out there, simply go to boldbrushshow.com. That's BOLDBRUSH show.com. And of course, you can find all the links in the show notes.